Hey.
BBB. Oh, new background.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Barry Dr. Court. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, new background because I'm something wrong with my machine and my Facebook login. So a couple of days ago, when I go to my wall on my phone, it says that something about you access it, something to do, activity that blocked my access or something. But it didn't change my password or anything. I can still log in and everything. So that was 2 days ago. And this morning, it said I posted something I shouldn't be posting, so it took it away. But I couldn't figure out what did I posted. I didn't post anything yesterday at all, or last 2 3 days. So something's going on. So anyway, I'm doing some scanning and updates and whatever need to be done.
Wait, who did this to you? They're saying Facebook said you
Facebook,
posted something?
Facebook,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been in Facebook jail probably at least 24 times. I don't have no idea how they decide these things.
Let me check to see if you've been hacked.
Yeah.
Let's see. Facebook. Sam Chan, friend. Okay, that's the real you. I don't see any other Sam Chan's coming up. There's another Sam Chan who lives in Boston. Well, there's a lot of Sam Chans.
Yeah, of course. That's the whole idea.
But well,
I'm good, right? Looking
none
good.
of them seem to be impersonating you.
Okay, good. I mean, there are three things about hacking, right? One is that they have my password access to my account, my real account. That's one hacking. The impersonating is I'm not too worried about that because it's nothing to do with me. You can't stop them anyway. The third type of hacking is that I have no idea what they're doing, but somehow they did. That's what I'm worried about. So it's like I posted something, I didn't post anything at all the last 2 3 days, and I did post something like about the money market, and there's a lot of what they call fraudulent activity going on that they befriend you and they switch you to WhatsApp, and then they convince you sooner or later. And my brother called me about someone that he knows about a year and a half ago and try to convince him to get into that. What do you call that? Buying and selling currency. What do you call that?
Arbitrage?
Say again.
Arbitrage.
No, it's not. There's a term for it called you basically trading buying English fund. Forex.
Foreign exchange trading.
Foreign exchange, yeah, but there's a word. There's a market. I don't remember. It'll come to me. When people play in the market, there's a term for it. It's a foreign exchange, buying, selling, buy low, sell high, kind of thing. Anyway, so what you do is that they will convince you to do something, and then they give you a fake website and this and that, and they.
It's called fraud. What you're looking for is fraud.
If you see my last posting, that's all about that. So basically, when someone sends you that, that's what they're ready to engage you into that fraudulent activity.
I will look up your last posting. You have a competitor, another Sam Chan, who lives in Boston, and his occupation is Business Solutions Specialist at Galaxy Integrated Technologies, Inc. Sounds like he's a direct competitor.
No, it's not. I don't have any competition at all, Barry. Find me a computer company around for about 40 years. Find me a company that has 1.5 million unique manufacturer part number for IT products. I don't have competition, really. No, serious.
DigiKey, CDW.
No, not even close. CDW at the most they have, I don't know, 100,000 items, 200,000 items. That's about it.
Well, so I'm going to go to your page. You posted January 16th.
Yeah.
This image appears to show a trading platform interface with a chart for XAU USD.
Yeah,
which is the currency code for gold against the US dollar.
yeah.
Scammers might use such images to deceive people in various ways. So that was January 16th, which is like 4 days ago.
Yeah, so I'm basically trying to expose people that when they try to get into that market and what possibly could go wrong in that transactions.
Let's see if I can. Does this tell you when you were last logged on? Let me just see if I can figure that out.
Well, you know, Facebook filter could be so bad that they actually think you are trying to propagate that fraud. That's how bad the
But
filters probably is.
but thing is, it says some, but they took it away. But they didn't take this one away.
I just read it. It's there.
Yeah, so it
Now,
said it took it
here's
away.
something. Here's something. It says, you were active 14 minutes ago."
I
On the
was
messenger
there
side, it
14
says you were active 14 minutes ago.
Yeah, I was there 14 minutes ago. Yeah, because I checked things out because it tells me about. Let me show you.
But that's when you try to use your credentials to log into Zoom, right?
Yeah, no, basically I go into the Facebook, figure out what's heck is going on. Let me post you this to you so you see what I'm talking about. Let me go to a chat. Where the heck's the chat? Okay, here chat. I can post the image now. I have this on my see that on the chat.
You remove your content, see why, 4 hours ago. So something you posted 4 hours ago triggered a false positive, I guess, as you have to call it.
Yeah, so basically I don't think it's about something I posted 4 hours ago because I was sleeping. And it's not, I think probably somebody complained or somebody tagged, somebody identified my posting was bad or something.
Oh, somebody just put in a complaint 4 hours ago. Well, that's
Right.
possible because it's 11 o'clock here. So that would have been what, 7 a.m., which is possible. Somebody in the East Coast at 7 a.m. posted something. But the thing is that your January 16th item is still there.
Yeah, that's what I say. Because they say they remove it, but I had no idea what they did remove. And so when I log into my local machine, it's like the password doesn't look familiar to me. It's like, but I can still log in. So it's like, I don't know what's going on. It's kind of
Well, it's
weird.
definitely not the one from the 16th. You talked about fake success stories, manipulated images, high pressure tactics, phishing, and
Yeah,
advanced fee fraud. You talked about these things, and then
yeah.
you exercise caution and due diligence. So and Stacy liked it. 4 others liked it. Heather, Angeline, Shinji Tsumori, Tony Bocage, they all liked it. So it's not that one because it's still there. Then the next one is January 10th.
Right.
So
That's what
whatever it was, it's old.
It says removed, so I have no idea what it was. I wish I can find out exactly what was removed so that I can see. Oh, okay, I did post that one. Somebody did.
Oh, it says here that you got married to Pam Lee. You never talked about your wife, Pam Lee.
No.
Got married in 2009, it says here. And took a trip to Chicago in 2014.
Yep.
I usually don't pay attention to these little sidebar things of people, but there it is.
That's what tells you whose birthday it is today.
Yeah, except that let me just see if I go to top of this thing about founder, CEO at Applied Computer Online Services, married to Pam Lee, contact and basic information. Where's birthday on this thing?
I don't post birthday.
That's why it's not there. Family and
I take it
relationship.
away. They know, but then they try to tell me about the posting, but I take it away. Yeah, too much information.
Yeah.
Because when I had post birthday like a couple years ago, man, I must have 1,000 happy birthday thing.
I usually get about 120.
Yeah. You see how many friends I have? You know how many people I have?
Oh, let me go back and see that. Friends. Does it say how many? Where does it say how many you have? I don't
Doesn't
think I
say-
don't think you're disclosing that anymore.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, the less if people know about me, the better it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't even list, well, it says that you and I have two mutual friends. Our mutual friends, here's the odd thing. Sam Hahn is not listed as a mutual friend, but Alexander Laszlo and Andres Gomez Emelson are listed as mutual friends with you, but not Sam Hahn.
Yeah, also Stacy, right?
Yeah, they're not listed as
I don't know.
on mutual friends. It only shows two mutual friends.
Well, it's pretty good already, considering they have to manage billions of members on the thing and so much data they have to keep track of and security and all that stuff. So I'm
You know, your followers are listed. You got a lot of followers, most of whom have Asian surnames. But
yeah. So my mystery is like, what happened? What was posted? What was removed? And like,
beats me. But this is a mistake because it doesn't list, for some crazy reason, it only lists two mutual friends, and neither of them are Stacy or Sam Hahn.
yeah,
I don't know why that is.
maybe they don't consider it friend enough.
People have different, the privacy settings are really arcane anymore.
Yeah,
It's probably some privacy setting that I don't know about that's preventing them from appearing as mutual friends.
it's crazy. I mean, I think about the size of data that give me the biggest headache. You know,
Yeah.
they have to invent a new database structure so that they can manage this. How big is databases, Sam, on Facebook?
I don't know. It's
Their
huge.
database?
Yeah.
I've never estimated it. I heard about it 15 years ago. Their VP of engineering came to one of the VPE COP meetings and talked about their entire network structure. And at that time, they had 6 servers. Okay. There was the Harvard server, they're all named after universities. Okay.
Mm.
And they're able to scale it, and this is early, so it was late 2000s, somewhere in the late
Mm.
2000s. So it's probably 15 years ago. So yeah, I used to know those people, but obviously they've grown since then.
So you have access to the Meta AI, ask other AI, Meta AIs, and see how
Well,
big is your.
I could actually, get the inside scoop from my son. He works there.
Oh, okay.
Not that I would ask him to divulge proprietary information at all.
Just curious, like how big the database for.
I don't know. Did they ever have a billion logins or anything that many?
They claimed it, yeah.
Yeah. But
They hit a billion pretty fast. They claimed it, but they
There-
don't
there's
like to
a-
brag about those numbers
I
because
think
there's so much repetition there.
is it Dunbar's number, which is an estimate of the maximum number of people one can keep track of in their head, like 150
Yes,
people or something. Dunbar's number, is it?
yes. Although I suspect that number should be modified now.
Well, now because the computers can keep track of a lot more people for you. But I look on these things and I see people who are in my friends list or contact list. I say, who the hell is that? I don't even recognize their name.
Yeah.
And then I get friend requests from these sexy models, which I'm pretty sure are not sexy models. They're just some.
They're trying to get you onto a dating site.
Yeah, I just got one the other day that I'm pretty sure it's a fake account with a sexy model female.
How about 60 models?
But I didn't check. What you usually do is you reverse image search the picture. And
Yeah.
then you find the real model who has that picture that they're,
Did that the reverse search doesn't work anymore? They stopped working about 2 years ago. I used to be able to use that, but they no longer allow
maybe
that.
not for people. It works for other stuff besides people.
Not real, not as good as before. 2 years ago was so good. I love it. And then they take it away.
I have a correspondent who who occasionally posts images of works of art. And often she doesn't have the origin of the image. And she never learned how to do reverse image search. Whenever she says, I don't know where this came from, I immediately do reverse image search to find where it came from and get the name of the piece and the name of the generator of the piece and the date and the context. And it always blows her away when I do that, but it's not hard to do if you just know what to click on. Reverse image search built into Google.
Yeah, talk about sexy models. I have, no kidding, okay, over 500 invites on LinkedIn. Over 500
Sexy models.
sexy models. It's crazy. So what I usually do nowadays is that unless I have mutual friends with you, I don't even check at all. It's like not even bother. I don't have time for it.
I don't get that many because I'm not rich like you.
No, it's not about rich. It's I think I'm Asian.
Well, you're an
I'm
entrepreneur. You're a president of a company, large
yeah,
company, and I'm a retired nobody.
yeah. It's not nobody, but the thing you're a retired person that I guess somehow I don't know. Chinese people is easier to bully or something. I have no idea. All I know is I got like 500. Like, are you crazy? Like,
Let me just see who this last friend request.
Easy
See,
filter. Don't look at anything that's less than a year old.
oh, you know what? I think that sexy model friend request has disappeared. It was there this morning. It's not there now.
oh, they get deleted.
They must have figured out that it's bogus because I'm
Yeah,
not seeing it in
maybe.
my current friend requests.
Right.
Yeah, it's gone.
That's a good thing.
So yeah, chances are somebody tracked it down as bogus because it had to
Right.
be clearly bogus.
Right.
Yeah, it's gone. But I have friend requests from people I've never heard of. I don't know where they get my name from.
So that's why as soon as they friend you on Facebook or LinkedIn, they tell them, okay, would you be able to connect with me on WhatsApp? And that's what they do right away because WhatsApp won't kick them out. It's not as easy to kick them out.
Oh,
Facebook, they require you to post something like, what did they do actually that, block them or whatever. So,
yeah. Well, all right. So at least that one's gone now.
all you do is change your title to CEO of a company, Barry. You'll get a lot of sexy models.
Well, back in the late 1980s, when there was Usenet news groups,
Yeah.
and I worked at MITRE, I didn't actually want to, when I posted anything on a news group, I didn't want to imply any affiliation with MITRE because, why would you? So I had these bogus companies. One was called IdeaSync Inc. One was called International Malefactor and Fulminator. And they were clearly bogus organizations, but just so that I could put down an organization name, just to be cute. But I would never put down MITRE Corporation as a true affiliation, even though that was my email address. But I don't think your email address shows up though on net news. Maybe it does. I got one request. There were a couple of senior scientists at Bose out, which is not far from, just to the west of Boston. And I had posted a comment that a summer intern that I was working with had done a computer animation using what's that object-oriented language that was popular back in those days? I forget the name of it. She'd use an object-oriented language to do a computer animated simulation of a packet network. And I mentioned it on one of the news groups, and I got an invitation from this senior scientist to come out and demonstrate it. So we packed a 286 machine in the trunk of my car, and Debbie Guerrera, this junior in college, went out and she presented this summer project of a computer animated simulation model of a local area network to these two senior guys at Bose. And he says, man, I said, he says, I feel old and stupid now.
Mhm.
Here was this, 20-year-old college computer science major doing computer animated simulation models of local area network technologies.
Wow. Good old days.
Yeah. Well, back in those days, I mean, geez, I can't remember the name of the language. There was the one that was developed at Xerox PARC.
Simula? No, not Simula. It was Smalltalk.
Smalltalk, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a version of Smalltalk that ran on the Symbolics machine, and there was a version that they developed for the 286, Smalltalk V5.
5.
And we used Smalltalk V or Smalltalk 5 on a 286. And she spent the summer, learning the language and learning computer animation and simulation modeling and local area networks, and put the whole thing together in like 2 months.
What's the, I remember Smalltalk, but I don't remember what it does. What is the strength of the Smalltalk is?
It's
was
no
the ver-
imperative. It was all object-oriented programming. Everything
Yeah.
was a message.
Yeah, totally object oriented.
Yeah. It
Um,
got us down that object-oriented programming paradigm and lost us, decades.
Yeah. So it was, and there was another one called Actor, which was a sort of a clone of Smalltalk V, also ran on the 286 IBM machine. And then there was the fancy one that ran on the big Symbolics, $100,000 Symbolics computer. And I did some. You have an answer for that? Okay. What's your answer? Call of Smalltalk, the right on the 26 IBM machine, and then there was the fancy one that ran on the big symbol. That's
Symbolics.
No, it's putting down what I wrote.
Oh.
Anyhow, so I played with object oriented, kind of in the late 80s, early 90s. And that was sort of the end of my playing around with object oriented languages. Oh, look who's here. Zoom user. Hello, Zoom user.
He was here. He was just listening.
Hello, baby rabbit. Yep, I was here just listening, trying to get the
baby
kid
rabbit.
taken care of.
Yeah.
If I'm Zoom user, that's baby rabbit, and I assume you are Mr. Court. Is that correct?
It's what it says there.
Okay.
I could have put Barsoom Torque, anthropologist from Mars, I suppose.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to put I guess the name is clearing out when I go on Zoom. It's not keeping it in the cache.
You can click the little check. And you type in the name. I think you can click a little X to remember it for the next time.
Yeah, the problem is it's just resetting. It's not keeping the keeping me as the user.
Oh, that's odd.
Yeah. My life is odd. I have 17 devices. Everything is 17 devices, 3 internet services.
Yeah. Welcome to the club.
Constantly updating routers and Wi-Fi and blah blah blah.
Yeah. I've been doing the same thing. Sam keeps sending me this stuff. He sent me this lovely 30-inch monitor with high resolution. So it took me a while to figure out how to hook it up to anything that it was compatible with. First of all, you had to use a dual link DVI cable.
Yep.
It turns out that there was one in the package that Sam sent, but all my other DVI cables are single link. So it took me a while to figure out, how to recognize the dual link cable. And then I discovered that I've got 4 machines that support that resolution. But I had to sort of schlep everything around and plug them in. Then I had to order 2 more dual link cables because it got 3 inputs and I only had 1 cable that was compatible with it. I tried using a 24+1 DVI to HDMI adapter, but standard HDMI doesn't do dual link. I looked it up. It says, nope.
Yeah.
Can't do dual link with a conventional HDMI cable no matter what.
Yeah.
Although they make an HDMI cable that's wider than the standard one that does it, but I've never seen the wide HDMI connectors.
I've never heard of wide HDMI.
I went to Wikipedia and it showed a picture of one. I said, geez, I didn't even know they existed. There's also a wider DVI connector. Most of my DVI connectors are all the same kind of 20, a 24, a 3x8 set of pins, plus the thingy on the side. But there's also one that's wider than that I think appeared in the early days of DVI, and then they maybe just dropped it because there wasn't any market for it.
Yeah, never seen one.
I've got adapters. I've got an old G5 machine that the video adapter has both the standard one and the wider DVI connector, but I've never seen any cables that have the wider style. But this showed up in the Wikipedia article on DVI.
Yeah, what I remember was when there's transition of single link to dual link and all that stuff, analog. Okay, there's analog, there's a digital, there's a single link, there's a dual link. So
and integrated. There's one that'll support both digital and analog.
Yeah.
One that'll support dual link digital.
Right.
One that'll support only digital. and
I was so
complicated
with it. Like,
it is so friggin' complicated. And so it's a wonder, and I sort of understand why they discontinued the least popular ones, and because it just confuses people.
And then the display port comes out. I say, yeah, that was the end of it. And then HDMI. I think HDMI came over sooner. The HDMI consortium, or whatever you want to call the organization, is actually right next to my office.
Yeah. And HDMI connectors come in standard, mini, and micro.
Micro, yeah.
And then they also come in the fat one, the super fat one, which is for the dual link version. Or not dual link, but super high definition version.
And HDMI, there's one without the audio, there's one with audio, and there's one with high definition or low resolutions. Like,
yeah. So, yeah, I noticed that one of the computers I have has a mini HDMI port, as well as a DVI port, and display a what's it called? Mini display link. What's it called? Display port. But the Apple display port has a different form factor than the PC display port.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah, because I got the Macintosh here, and it's got a display port, and I got the connector. In fact, let's see. Yeah, so I don't know if so this is the Apple display port.
No, that's mini.
Well, it's the mini display port. Yeah.
Yeah, and mini is it.
But then the one on the PC looks almost the same as an HDMI, except one side of it is slanted.
Yeah, that's big one. That's a regular size display port.
Right. So you have the Apple display port form factor and the PC display port.
No, the Apple has. I have a Mac Mini. I have a Mac Mini. I have a full size display port.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. My Mac Mini has HDMI. Let me take it back. I never see a display port on the Apple.
So I've got some 2009 Mac Minis. It's got the display port and the mini display port, which is identical to the Thunderbolt form factor. Go ahead, Joshua.
Oh, I was just asking what we're doing here. I'm just trying to follow the conversation. I'm like, I've got a Charizard and a Pokemon, and I'll raise you a mini display cable with 14 pins. Like, what are we doing?
We're just doing comparisons of how many computer technologies we have laying around, and how many different. You've got
cords?
14, and I can't even count as high as the number I have.
I've got a whole. I'm sure I could. Yeah, go ahead, baby rabbit.
Well, since you mentioned you had 18 devices, I was just curious, what's the last, and I have my own reason for asking this. What's the last device you guys bought? If you have N devices, what was the Nth device you guys bought?
For me or for Sam? Go ahead, Sam.
This is the last device I bought. It's these DisplayPort adapters.
That's why we're having this conversation.
I just asked a question. I didn't.
They said last device. What do you mean by device? Is computer? Is about knife? About device? There's a lot of devices. So definition of device, please.
Something that you think is part of your IT ecosystem.
There we go.
Personal, not business.
So
That's okay.
So that's
I mean,
a thunderbolt to either. What is this? What happens to be the DVI?
sorry, I don't buy anything for personal because I cannot write it off. The only way I can buy, I always buy something for company so I can write it off. It's R&D.
Okay.
What did you write off that you use personally?
The last device I bought was a KVM switch with 4 computers with now you do 2 display port connection. So 2 monitors, 4 computers, KVM switch with USB switchable, audio switchable. And that's, I waited about 3 years or 4 years before I bought it because it was about probably $5,000, 4 years ago. And now it's only like $150. Because my monitor is 4K resolution, and I hate it when the KVM switch doesn't do a good job. So you get a lot of flaky thing, and now high resolution. So I bought one that can drive 8K.
Wow. They make 8K HDMI cables. I've seen them advertised on Temu, but I don't believe I have any monitors that are 8K.
Yeah, I don't bother with 8K monitor because it's too high resolution for me.
Yeah.
For me, 4K is good enough. 32-inch 4K is enough for me to. I tell my employees I will be able to read the number of legs of the ants was crawling on my screen.
Yeah. My own personal experience is, for me, just my own experience with my eyes, a 43-inch 4K display is about perfect for me. Anything bigger is too big on a screen. Anything smaller, I could actually say, yeah, I'd prefer a larger one. So 43 inches is where I settled for 4K.
When I travel, my Microsoft Surface is 12 inches with 4K.
Now, if you set it at dot for dot, 1-for-1 resolution, can you even read anything?
Yes, I can read. I can say, instead of reading the legs of counting number of legs on the ants, I'm now seeing the hair on the legs of the ants.
Good grief. Yeah.
That's why I have special glasses. I have to design my special.
But if you do 8-point font on a 1-to-1 ratio 4K screen at that size, I don't think I could read the letters.
So it's a micro dot.
Yeah.
Microfiche.
Yeah.
I'm very particular.
That's my problem. Is I can't read the small fonts very well. These fonts are only a year old, but already they're not in focus for the small fonts.
So basically, what you do is you go to your eye doctor and say, I want the glasses that can focus on 21-inch, no more and no less. And so he or she will focus, making you the prescription, and you go. That's how I make my glasses so I can dead accurate focus on because of the distance.
So yeah, so my fingertips are almost touching the camera on this iMac. So it's at an angle up. So
yeah, measure it how far it is, and that's mine is 21-inch with my 4K monitors.
But I have different places where this is in the kitchen. The one upstairs, I think, is farther away.
Yeah, and you need different glasses for different distance.
Yeah. Unfortunately, none of them are exactly right for anything. They're not right for driving. They're not right for reading. And they're not right for the computer.
Anyway, there was a reason
my eyes have changed. I think my eyes have changed since these prescriptions were done.
Yes, Sam.
So I haven't heard from Josh yet. Josh, what was the 18th device that you bought?
Oh, it's not the 18th. I'm saying I have literally 18 computers, like cell phones and.
But what is the 18th? What is the last?
What's the newest thing you acquired?
Yeah. I'm being very specific. It's not the 18th. But it's a Moog Thurman mini Moog that has a MIDI hookup for Korg. It's a Korg Thurman. You use your hands. That's the last device I bought.
So you never bought a glass harmonica?
A glass? What's that?
Ben Franklin invented
that one
called a glass harmonica. It's basically wine glasses of different sizes. And
I looked into buying that one. Yeah, I looked into that one.
They're hard they're really hard to learn to play. Your fingertips have to be perfectly clean, no oil, and you have to use distilled water.
No.
It's really hard to play.
You could just buy a bunch of wine glasses and try to play that and cut your fingers on that one. Yeah, it's a very dangerous instrument.
Yeah. There are versions of it that the wine glasses are on a spindle nested, and then they're just wine glasses on a table standing up. With
Have any of you guys tried to play a theremin? Because this is I've, you know, went to people that were playing it and went, woo, for a second, but to actually play it, you have to calibrate it to the way you want to.
Right.
You have to do a near pitch and a far pitch.
Right.
And I can't decide if I want to play it here or if I want to play it here.
Yeah.
And then I can't decide on the volume. And it's really hard to get the room area right, because if anyone comes near you, like my daughter is like, ooh, turn it off. That's what she says every time. I don't like this thing. Turn it off.
It's the same as the elevator buttons. Aren't the elevator buttons the same capacitance contact near touching?
Yeah, except this is like 4 feet away touching. That's what I'm saying. It's
the elevator
weird
ones,
feeling.
You got to be within a fraction of a centimeter, fraction of a millimeter.
I'm just saying it changes your brain concept of spatial awareness when you're playing that instrument. It's really fun. I recommend any of you guys to try just for that brain spatial, because as you move slightly, you're going up an octave, and it's got a 4-octave range.
Oh, wow.
So it's it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's a full piano with your...
so is the glass harmonica. They sound like celestial music.
Well, I can play with the MIDI. I can basically put any sound I want, any sine wave in there.
That's right. Yeah,
it's pretty nice. It's not like just a theremin where you just have the standard.
Right.
You can actually put in synthesizer sounds.
They were very popular for sound effects in space age stories. So
modern. Just the standard on an iPhone, the GarageBand app is so powerful. It does so much. I every time I turn it on, there's something new on there, and it's got a new feature. Well, it's not new. It's been out for about 5 years, but you open your mouth and it changes the modulation pitch on the piano or keyboard.
Wow.
So you go da da da, and then you open your mouth.
Can you how do you say it? Ululate?
If anyone has an iPhone and they have GarageBand loaded on it, just grab it for a second, click on synthesizer, say new instrument, keyboard, and then you'll see a little face on there, and you click the face and you can play with it.
Nice.
You can waggle your tongue at it and ululate. That's a hard word to pronounce, ululate.
Yeah, and if you don't want to use your face, you can click on the spatial, so it will change as you tilt it.
I didn't know they can do that. I thought it's the synthesizer for musician to have what do you call that? Timeline stacking thing.
Yeah. You're talking about the sine wave stacking?
Yeah, stacking. I call this timeline stacking because this is my electrical engineering language, but it's more like composing.
Yeah, it's like truncating and circuit bending.
Circuit bending and repeat or whatever chorus.
Yeah, they have ones that are so accurate it can emulate. I have a one. It's in my DAW program. It's a emulation of any instrument in a sine wave.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere, but I never have a chance to play with it.
It's so cool.
Yeah, auditory is. I don't have enough bandwidth for that yet.
Hey, Sam, if you want to talk to the iPhone, it's not Siri. What's the name that it reacts to? It's not Siri.
Hi,
Hey, Siri.
It's Hey Siri.
Yeah.
Hey Siri, are you there?
No? You have to turn that feature on. Yeah.
Well, because when I'm sitting here talking, sometimes it responds. I go, what did I say that activated it?
Hi, Siri.
Is it hi or hey?
Hi.
Hi, Siri. Hi, Siri. Hi, Siri.
Hi, hey.
It's not. It's responding to something other than hi, Siri. I don't know what it's responding to.
Hi, hey.
Hey, Siri. Hey Siri, are you there? What's your name?
You probably have to turn that feature on, Barry. It's in the accessibilities.
Yeah.
No, basically the way you watch, where you watch. So you have to like make it flat and it's talking to it. I don't remember exactly the way. If you face now, you mean it shouldn't be listening to you, but it's listening to me right now as I'm talking.
Hey Siri, are you there? Ah, it is, but I have to be checking the right attitude.
Yeah, as I said, the motion, yeah, because if like this
Actually,
factor design.
since you guys are talking about smart devices, how many of you guys actually have the Siri pre-ordered? I mean, not the Siri, the Rabbit pre-ordered.
What's the
I
rabbit?
didn't order yet. I was waiting like $199, right? The Rabbit 2.
What is it?
I was going to, but they're back ordered, so I just figured I'll wait till they catch up with supply and demand. But
Hey
Well,
Siri, what's the rabbit?
they're not shipping
Rabbit
until Easter.
yeah.
Okay,
Well, have you gotten your AI pin yet, Sam?
Not yet, not yet.
Sam Chin?
Okay.
Yeah, it's by the time it comes out, it's outdated. That's how fast things are moving.
Hey Siri, not the animal rabbit, the computer rabbit from Apple.
Rabbit,
It's not from Apple. It's not from Apple.
yeah, Rabbit 2 from Teenager something.
What's it
Teenage
from?
Engineering.
The rabbit from Teenage Engineering.
Did you see the talk, Sam Han, the full presentation?
Yes, the guy did a pretty good job. Jesse or Tony or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it last week or the week before, and I decided if that device could help Gail so that I don't, need to spend as much time helping her out, that actually was my primary use case. So I got two devices, one for her, one for me. They're supposed to be shipped in around Easter.
Well, I've been using Chat GPT on the iPhone, and if you just put on the listen thing, it does a good job. You can just let it sit there.
Yeah.
And then if you go into Siri shortcuts, you can, set it up as your main.
Sure.
And then, in other words, if you go in the back of the API, you can actually make it function and do things.
They will do searches, they will answer questions, but according to the Rabbit pitch, the whole point to the Rabbit pitch is it'll actually take action on your behalf across a number of applications. So I thought for $200, I'm going to play with it.
I'm gonna download that so fast. You have no idea.
Well,
Yeah,
let's actually check it out. I'm doing the experiment, okay? So I'm going to take a look at it.
You let me know. Let me know.
Yeah, let me know too.
Yeah, the way I think about it is cognitive, right? It's the way you think about it. I know a language, I know the meaning of the words, I know how to interpret it, and the execution. Good luck, my friend. Stacking so many things on top of each other.
Everything has a life cycle, and everything improves over time. So that's a case of whether you want to be early adopter or you want to be a somebody who comes after everybody's adopted it.
Yeah, when he showed the example, there's a very specific thing that he's doing that he can program it. But when you do across like the way we are so diversified,
well, look at Siri. Siri has exactly that problem, right? You know how many skills are in Siri and Alexa? They have the same problem, and they've not actually been very, very good at all. I find that the Alexa typically gets a lot of my requests wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just going to say, I've been trying to work in that space for a while, and I end up telling Siri to open Google Assistant. And then I'm training Google Assistant, because if you start using the Home Assistant a lot, it'll start asking you, did I get that right? Was that the right TV I opened up? Was that the right thing? Did I get it right? And the more you train it, it's gets better for about a week, and then it's not. So there's something inside of their cloud. It's more that it's on the server side is what I'm saying. It's a cloud thing. So as they're putting these AI chips in, I just met a guy named Gary who built the chips, the AI chips for IBM, and his company got bought out. But as the chips are inside of the devices, so if you have the latest Google Pixel phone, it'll get things right on the device better. So I'm noticing that like on some of my Samsung phones.
Yeah, good luck. I have to say good luck. If Google is the one that invests into all those resources they have and try to make it work and still having trouble with it, good luck.
Well, they're not having trouble with it. They have to train it across the platform, meaning it's working with devices that are using different protocols. Some are Bluetooth, some are Wi-Fi. And so the Matter protocol is starting to work. But if everything was Matter, it would all matter. Like if everything was on the Matter, if you had every IoT device on the Matter protocol and Google could recognize that, it works pretty damn good.
Okay, we shall see.
I'll give you a demonstration sometime in the house because and it also is important that there's not other people around and other noises. Really, a lot of it has to do with its ability to hear the exact command and your ability to say, like, I had to train everyone in the house. You say, open this thing on YouTube on the living room TV. And if you don't use that exact order, if you say, open this at this thing, and then before it's trying to calculate it, like in the real time, you have to say it at a certain speed before it ends the cutoff to try to run the command. So there's like a skill to telling it what to do.
Let me wind back the clock 30 years. I'm just talking about simple OCR. For the last 30 years of OCR technology, how confident is that if you have your wills get OCR by your lawyer to interpret it correctly?
Not just that, lawyers still use faxes at 150 dpi.
No, forget what kind of lawyer do you work with?
No, I'm saying, hey, all lawyers still do.
If you fax a copy of your wills to your lawyer and have the lawyer's software to OCR it, see how that was 30 years ago. And one dimension, black and white, dots on the laser printer, and simple text of 26 characters. OCR only, like just.
I feel like I live in a different world than you guys because I don't have that problem anymore. Like,
you know why I OCR a lot? You know why those OCR a lot? A lot of customers send in over purchase order, and it's instead of sending the PDF file that you can copy and paste the text off the PDF page, there's an image of it because they're using old-fashioned scanner. What happened is that I'm using the Microsoft Power Toys. You do a window shift key, you will be able to grab a picture of the text and it OCR for you and it convert over so you can have a long part numbers, easier to just convert over. Even that get wrong. Oh, drive me crazy.
Oh wow. What phone do you use, Sam, as your daily phone?
I don't use phone. I'm using iPhone, but I don't use iPhone for running business. Running business, I'm using my 4K monitors and Windows 11, and so when someone sends purchase order over, right? There's some cheap El Cheapo, what do you call that, PDF driver that will print it as an image instead of print it as a text. And the one that sent me I still have I would say about maybe 10% of my customers have using the image PDF file that they sent to me. It's like, oh, drive me crazy. You have to get all the letters on the ship to address correctly. You have to get all the part numbers correctly.
Is it formatting improperly or is it just not grabbing the characters?
Well, for example, I become, one become capital L, capital small L or whatever that is, and a B become 8, and like that kind of things. I'm just saying to you that even if we try to differentiate an OCR character, you're having so much trouble. Good luck with voice, good luck with stacking multiple layers of things. You need to get it right.
Send me a picture of a text document that's near you, and I'll do it right now. And we'll see. Because
to do is take a picture of some your magazine. Take a picture of it, and then have your iPhone do an OCR for that and see what happens.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I don't have any problems. So the only time I have a problem is when it's printed improperly. If it's coming off a fax machine from your lawyer, then it's probably a problem. But if it's a nicely printed piece of paper and the fonts are clearly
you
printed.
know why? Because you don't do it enough. I do that. Let's say I do it 3 to 4 times a day. You do it just for the fact of it 1 or 2 times.
No, I actually scan all of my mail.
You scan
I actually, yeah. My mail gets delivered somewhere else. The person takes a picture and emails it to me or just sends it to me, and it works perfectly.
And you don't read the picture. You don't read the picture. You read the text.
No, you know what I do now? Now I just, because in the Apple operating system, once it's there in a picture format, I can OCR it right from the screen. I don't have to go into any other program.
Understand? Do you throw away? Do you understand? You get the text off the using the Apple OCR technology. The question is, do you throw away your picture?
I don't throw away the picture. I keep the picture in
Why?
case I need to. Why do I keep the picture and not just pull off the text?
Yeah, because it's like text, right? You just need the content, right?
No, because the way it's formatted, sometimes there's different little pictures inside of the document. There's little squares and little.
And sometimes could be the text could be recognized wrong. So you want to keep the picture to make sure that the text can be retrieved back to the picture.
Well, this is what I'm trying to tell you is I have a system where I'm grabbing the text off of it, then I'm putting it in Chat GPT, and then I'm asking it to format it. And then I print that out if I need it. When I say print, I mean print to screen, not print to a piece of paper. But then I format. So in other words, I have the document, I have the text, and then I have the summary of the text.
You say you get the OCR software on the iPhone, get it right 100% of the time, all the time.
When the fonts are printed properly, it gets it right 100% all the time.
I'm so glad you're so lucky with it. I don't have that.
Maybe you're working with vendors or with people that are using really crappy printing.
No, or scan or crappy pictures.
I don't have any problem. It even gets handwriting now.
Wow.
Like I really, that's why I'm really confused, because it does such a great job. Like use the notepad thing in your iPhone and put in some handwriting.
That's handwriting, right?
Yeah, recognize it's not going to get something like this because it's not flat. So on here there's ridges. That's going to be a problem. But if it's on a flat piece of paper with a decent font, meaning it's not like some bank thing with like 0.5 font.
I'm so happy and grateful that you have so much confidence on the OCR technology. I don't.
I didn't. It just started working. It was somewhere around 2000 with my iPhone. I mean, my iPad Pro.
Do me a favor.
I started using it.
Do this. I just thought of something that make it easy. Okay, so take pictures of 2 pages of the text that you're on your letters, and just do a spell check for me. Just do a spell check.
Well, that's the thing is my new way. If it did get one character wrong, I'm putting it into Chat GPT, and Chat GPT fixes it for me.
Okay, got it. So that's one.
That's what I'm saying.
Out of the text. Okay, that's this.
I'm saying before, if it got one character wrong, it's enough for me to read it. Like usually, I have no problems. It can get a 1 or 2 characters wrong. Okay. But lately, it doesn't get 1 or 2 characters wrong.
Okay, got it. Lucky you.
Lucky you. You have the same iPhone.
No, basically, I don't trust it as much as you trust it because.
Well, I didn't trust it until I started taking pictures in bad lighting, but you know what does help though? You do have to make sure that when you are doing the scan, you don't have you're getting shadows more than likely. You're taking the picture in bad lighting. Well, and one of the things I do is I take pictures in natural light.
So when the OCR doesn't get the character right for me, it costs me a lot of money.
Yeah, well, make sure. Where are you scanning the pictures? Are you doing it with your phone, or what are you?
No, basically, again, it's an email of the when somebody, that have you used they call it PDF sender. They don't make them. They still make them or the MD. They call it MDF. So a printer that can have a scanner, a printer that have a built-in scanner. Instead of scanning to a fax, you scan it to a PDF file for you.
You know what's going on? They're probably not cleaning the plate that they're scanning it on. And there's artifacts on that plate.
That's one of the many reasons.
Yeah,
people with the scanning, Anyway.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have no problems because everything's printed. You take a picture, the lighting is good, it recognizes all the characters. But I think you're running things through a machine that's darkening it, and it's getting all these artifacts. So you're not actually taking a picture of a clean piece of paper with a print. You're taking a picture off of a PDF that is poorly scanned.
I'll send it over with the Facebook Messenger so that you can play with it. Yeah.
Yep. send it over now and I'll do one. Just send me
Yeah.
any PDF picture of something that's not proprietary.
Yeah.
I'm that's what I'm saying. I'm living in a different world because all these problems, they fix them all. So I'm like, I haven't had problems in a long time.
Nice.
And even if I do, now we've got these language models to say, hey, what am I looking at? And it says, well, it looks like a B, but I think it's supposed to be 8 because there's a bunch of numbers before and after it. So it's probably not a B. Like it's
Model numbers are a pain. If it
Yeah.
doesn't recognize the model number of an Arcane, Hewlett Packard or Dell or whatever, because they got letters and digits all mixed in.
Mhm.
Usually I'm looking up model numbers of devices to figure out what the specs are.
It's a lot to do with colors and shadows. I think a lot of that's the problem you're having.
Let's see if I can find something for you real quick.
So are we still doing Bohmian dialogue? I've been telling everyone I'm at this GCC group and we're going to practice Bohmian dialogue every week.
Well,
I'm very excited about
ground
that.
truth. If you are getting to the ground truth, then you're getting the payoff of Bohmian dialogue. If you're
Okay.
debating, taking a position and defending it to your dying day, you're not doing Bohmian dialogue. You're working towards a common understanding of the ground truth.
And the way I've been explaining it to people is you're not steel manning, you're not straw manning, you're not
Bullshitting,
holding steady. Yeah, you're not bullshitting.
not
You're
rapping.
listening and trying to understand. Listening, trying to understand. Yeah, I just met a guy this week who's running 10 call centers and he's using open source dialing software. And he's I used to work in telemarketing and he's blowing my mind at what the latest telemarketing is. And the more I listened to him talk, I asked, why are you still telemarketing? Like, why are we still calling people? And it just feels so scammy.
It is terrible. Most of my calls are robocalls.
They're auto dialers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met the guy that's annoying everybody. I can only imagine what his companies are from, you need to get this service from the government. But it is fascinating, the software, the AI software they're running the information through before they make the calls, after they make the calls, and how they switch the calls from a computer making the call and then routing it over to another country for a person to pick up. And then if the computer detects that that person didn't read the script properly, it's routing the call back to another area and then marking that call was not a valid call. It's really like the latest modern telemarketing from the back end is really interesting. I'm thinking that phone calls should be obsolete soon because we'll have AI assistant models where they take the information, figure out if that person's a scammer or not, do the due diligence, go out to the web, check everything that was said on the call, see if it's accurate, and then come back to you. Like everyone has their own secretary.
Back when we had tape recorder answering machines, I would occasionally pick it up and pretend to be the answering machine. I would say, please leave a message, then wait for the reply. And then I would, in a robotic voice, respond to the message.
Oh, that's funny. Is it warming up, Barry, in Massachusetts, or is it cooling down?
It was 11 this morning. It's now 18. So it's gone up less than 10 degrees since dawn. What is it now? What? Almost noon, I guess. It is noon. So here it is, 18 degrees at noon. It's going to get into the low 20s probably by mid-afternoon. And there's not really any wind, although there is a wind chill nonetheless. Now there's a bit of a breeze. I can see a little wavering of the trees. So I think the wind chill is down in the single digits.
That's pretty cold.
It's cold. It's cold. It's overcast. It's dry. It's possible we'll get some snow flurries today. We didn't get any on Friday. The snow that came to the East Coast on Friday mostly was to the south of Boston. We didn't really get any here.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, but it was nonetheless cold. And maybe we'll get next to nothing today as well.
Yeah, I watch a car show every week. So I've got the news from the week before because they do a YouTube channel, and they were trying to plow with the Ford F-150 Lightning, but they had to hook the plow on the back of the car. So it was the first time I saw someone plowing from the back of a car, not the front.
That seems dangerous. You can't see what you're doing.
It's very dangerous.
I mean, trucks, have to go beep, beep, beep when they go backwards.
Damn, I don't want to make you look for PDFs. I don't
No,
know if
I'm doing 3 things at the same time. Don't worry.
okay. We know it's annoying. I'm just
It's okay. No, very good.
yeah. Well, I'm the most excited I think I've ever been about all this, the latest technology that came out so far this year, and seeing the trajectory. I don't know if you guys caught Sam Altman on the Davos conversation, and yeah, he seems getting confident with his product.
I did watch the Jack's slim moon landing, which was they did a soft landing, but then they lost the solar panels must have not been getting any sunlight. I think, you know what happened? I think they landed on a slope. And when they land on a slope, you see the angle of the attitude of the lander at a little bit of an angle, but they never said what was the angle of the slope, or what's the angle of the lander? Did it tip over? Was it canted at an angle because of the slope? And was the solar panels being blocked by the angle of the sun? And I watched this news conference, and nobody ever asked the right questions. You landed on a slope. What's the angle of the slope? What's the angle of the lander on the slope? Is it upright? Did it tip over? Is it canted? What's the angle of the sun? So the Japanese landed on the moon yesterday.
I didn't know that.
They actually launched it way back on Christmas, and it had been circling the moon for like a month. And then they did the soft landing yesterday. It was, I don't remember what time. It was morning our time. It was around midnight their time. And so if you look at the phase of the moon is, I think, first quarter right now. And the idea is they landed right where the edge of the morning on the moon, so they'll have 2 weeks of sunlight. They'll go through the full moon and then the second half, and so they're going to get, I don't know, about 2 weeks of daylight. But if the thing landed so the solar panels are not aimed vertically but at an angle, maybe as the moon goes around the Earth, because a day of the moon is a month of days, and so the angle of the sun changes a little bit every day, and you get 2 weeks of sunlight and then 2 weeks of darkness on any one spot on the moon. The people didn't ask the right questions, and the panel didn't give the answers that explain why did the solar panels not get any sunlight after they landed? The answer, I think, is they landed on a slope, and did it tip over?
Maybe they asked in Japanese, but they didn't translate to English.
They had an English translator that was translating.
But maybe someone said slope and the translator said angle or something, it wasn't scientifically translated properly.
In fact, when they were doing the telemetry of the landing itself, the translator in the English translator says they landed on a slope, and there was a little animated diagram that showed that the lander was canted at about 10 or 20 degrees off the vertical. But nobody says what's the numerical angle of the slope, and is it sitting you know, this way on the slope? Is it sitting upright on the slope with legs long? Did it tip over? All the questions that you'd want to ask about landing on a slope, nobody asked the right questions or never got the straight answers.
I think the slope is a complicated question. So depending on the slope, it's actually you need, if it's slope, the slope only have meaning when there's a gravitational pull in the you know, think of it like what do you call that, tangent, what do you call that,
The
so
normal.
thing that because of the, you need to know exactly where the center is, and that's slope has to be measured to the center of the moon, and maybe they don't have a way to measure it or something along that line.
Well, but they had they had visual cameras looking at the lunar surface, trying to find a good place to land that didn't have any boulders or anything. And you would think that they could detect whether the land was level or sloping, and they landed on a sloping surface, but they never said what the slope was.
Now I'm thinking about, if someone asked me for the slope for the moon, unless I know where the center of the moon is, I have no way to tell the slope.
They know exactly where they landed on the moon. They know that they landed within, I think.
I know, but if you know the location, doesn't mean that you know where the center of gravity is, so that you can compare them, right? What's a tangent? Okay, so if you measure that, if you know that this is a parallel circle, then the tangent is very straightforward. You know, 180.
Moon is big enough that the gravity direction of, you know, the plumb line. You can get the plumb line. I mean, they got to know where the plumb line is, because when they were descending, the rocket had to be on the plumb line so that the retro rockets would stop, because it's falling on the plumb line.
Right. So
the soft landing
is going to measure the plumb line. How do they measure the plumb line? I wonder how they, because the wind may be blowing them.
There's no wind on the moon. There's airless. The only force on the moon is gravity, which is along the plumb line. And then when they landed, the surface of the moon was not perpendicular to the plumb line. It was at an angle. But they didn't even tell you what the angle was, or whether the lander had legs that extended downslope, or whether the lander ended up canted because it's on a slope. When you stand on a slope, you still stand upright. You know, when children draw a picture of a chimney on a roof, the very young children draw the chimney at an angle, and the little older children draw the chimney straight up. It's not that complicated. When you stand on a slope, you don't stand at a cockeyed angle, because you'll fall over.
So nobody asked that question about the slope, huh?
Nobody asked the question, do the legs of the lander extend so that it compensates for the slope, or do the legs have the same length so that the thing sits on the slope perpendicular to the slope?
I just put in the chat, I just looked it up to see if it said anything about the slope, and all it says, it's supposed to touch a 15-degree slope. In the chat.
It's designed for a 15-degree, or it actually landed on a 15.
Right. Yeah, no, I got you. It's annoying. It's annoying as hell, Barry. Like, okay.
So if the slope was 15 degrees or less, the legs should have been able to compensate.
Correct.
So
That's what this article says. But no, this is what I'm trying to tell you, is no one's going to tell you what happened, because it's proprietary information to the government, and they're not going to let their competitors and other people and, you know, PR, like, in other words, they're not going to tell you what happened. They're not supposed to.
But it's also possible that because it landed on a slope, the sunlight, the morning sunlight was at the, you know, exactly the wrong direction. If you're on the slope this way and the sunlight's this way, you're great. If you're on the slope this way and the sunlight is this way, you're screwed. There's no sunlight on the panels, because the panels are perpendicular to the grade of the slope, not perpendicular, parallel. Now, but as the moon goes around the Earth, the sun is going to get higher and higher overhead, and maybe eventually they'll get enough sunlight on the solar panels that it'll revive the circuitry. But you have to wait days. You have to wait maybe a week to get enough.
I was looking. Yeah, for this exact problem, I was looking up nuclear batteries that give small voltage over time, and I'm wondering if they can store that small voltage over time. So if the solar panels aren't working, they have some sort of power to at least move or fix
They used that on
something.
Voyager had nuclear batteries, but as far as I know, this one has solar panels because you got a lot of sunlight, and that's more efficient. And the thing is that they were designed so that you get 2 weeks of sunlight and then 2 weeks of darkness, and the thing sort of goes into sleep mode in the darkness. When we have a new moon, which is no moon, then that means the lander has no sunlight. And then,
Yeah.
and then 2 weeks later, you have the new moon, the full moon, the 3/4 moon, and the thing wakes up again. So maybe it'll wake up in a week or so, and maybe it won't. And they just won't tell you. They either know and don't tell you, or the people who are on the panel simply couldn't figure it out in real time.
I don't think people are thinking as much as you're thinking.
There was one guy on the panel who I'm convinced could have been candid about the geometry, because the geometry is not complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know
Have you ever watched a press conference from the Tesla company where they bring up the engineers and the people on there? It's a nightmare. It's beautiful because they're talking technical, but the audience is like, huh? And then it goes on for 2.5. The whole presentation ends up being 4.5 hours long.
Right. And
And
they don't say
then-
anything.
And then the press reports back and they said stuff.
Right.
They don't, like, in other words, if you don't just leave out the gobbledygook and say the PR thing that you're supposed to say, it doesn't, you know how it works.
They also had people on the YouTube web chat, not YouTube, well, whatever. Yeah. You could type in comments, type in questions from the people. And one guy typed, he says, well, if it's on a sloppy surface, SLOPPY, meaning sloping, but it came out sloppy. And I go, okay, I know what he's asking. He's asking if it's on a sloping surface.
Yeah.
But it says sloppy surface. Well, you got to correct for bad spelling or something.
I need to check on something, and I might be back. I might not be back. Okay, so I need to check on something.
Okay.
If
All
I
right, be
don't,
well,
get
Sam.
back to you tomorrow. Okay, take care.
Okay.
The 2.4 meter tall lander is designed to fall on its side once the main landing gear touches the 15-degree slope. It's supposed to fall over in order to stabilize its position. It's self-operated throughout the landing while being tracked at JAXA's Space Center. So it's supposed to fall over? It's supposed to touch a 15-degree slope and fall over? Was that the idea?
All I did was get a Nikkei article from 20 hours ago. That was published 20 hours ago. So I didn't even know that they landed on the moon until you told me. So
I need to double check that paragraph, because I know that
click on the link in the article. Yeah, I don't know.
I know that they landed on a slope because you could see the animation. It was canted. Because when they were doing the descent, they could actually show the attitude of the lander in the animation.
Uh-huh.
And when they finally hit the surface, it was left at a canted angle, about 15 degrees. Maybe that was on purpose. But then the question is, does it stay at that angle, or is it supposed to fall over?
That's a great question. I don't know any of these things.
This one sounds like it's supposed to topple over. But in the press conference, nobody talked about that.
Yeah, in other words, don't get your information from the press conference. Get your information from someone that's technical, that's trying to figure this out too.
There was one person on the panel who was technical.
Yeah.
And when he talked, I could, I knew that he was making sense. The rest of them were using political language that doesn't say anything,
And were these Japanese scientists speaking in Japanese, or were they?
They were speaking Japanese, and they had an English translator on the channel.
Yeah, because I mean, Japanese is one of those languages that does not always translate.
Yeah. But people asked the same questions over and over and got the same answers over and over. And they were all kind of bullshitty, non-committal. They kept saying, well, we're analyzing the data. It's going to take days to analyze the data. And, because when it landed, they said, we're checking on the status. A minute later, we're checking on the status. A minute later, we're checking on the status. Like, the status is it talking? So they're getting a radio signal to and from it that's running on batteries. They say, well, the battery has about 2 hours of life left in it before, We don't have enough juice to run the circuits. And then if and when they get any sunlight on the solar panels, it'll come back to life again. But
I was going to say, didn't they just also launch people to the International Space Center this last week?
Yeah, there was a private crew that went to the space station. I didn't read that story, but I saw the headline.
Yeah, I just watched I think it was the beginning of this week. Elon Musk did a SpaceX conference where he showed the amount of payload that they're sending out into space now.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying they're even sending up Jeff Bezos's internet satellite for his internet, like Starlink. And they've hired SpaceX to send up the competitor. Like in other words, the amount, when they show the graph of how much payload they're getting out into space and how many launches they're doing and what it's supposed to be for the next year, it's just exponentially going up.
There's so much metal in orbit that it's actually affecting the magnetosphere. The magnetosphere is what keeps the bad particles from getting, down to the Earth. And they say it's actually measurably changing the deflection pattern of the magnetosphere. Not yet enough.
Measurably.
Not measurably. Not enough to be worrisome yet. But it's a differential effect in terms of the magnetosphere's ability to protect the Earth from the.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's because I see all these satellites they're launching for Starlink, and then if there's 4 other systems in different orbits, that's not going to be good for the magnetosphere.
But they think that what happened maybe either on Mars or Venus was the absence. So Mars doesn't have a big magnetic field like the Earth does. So Mars has no big magnetosphere, and they think that the solar wind depleted the atmosphere on Mars faster, and that we have an atmosphere because what happens is that the particles will dissociate the molecules in the air. And as they dissociate the molecules, pretty soon you'll lose the hydrogen, because that's the one that floats away the easiest. And so they think that if you put too much metal into orbit and you disturb the magnetosphere enough, you'll start changing the composition of the atmosphere enough that you'll start losing the lighter atoms in the upper atmosphere, which is essentially the hydrogen.
Oh my goodness.
They think that's one of the reasons that Mars doesn't have a lot of water. They think that the water vapor got dissociated because of the solar wind on Mars, and then the hydrogen went away, and you ended up with the oxygen. But that's not good enough to do anything useful in terms of life, because you got to have the water.
Yeah, the more I look at science, the more I realize we have so much we don't know. And like I just watched Sabine Hofstetter this week. Did you see the rings of galaxies that they found?
I've watched a bunch of hers, but not that one.
Yeah, it just came out a couple days ago. Yesterday.
I watched a bunch of them last week, but not in the last couple of days.
Yeah, she's quite snarky. She's gotten to be quite the pundit.
She has a snarky sense of humor.
Yeah, it's getting snarkier. Like she used to be a little bit more dry, and now she's leaning into her comedy a little bit too much. But long story short, there's anomalies that if we don't change the model of our view of reality, we're not going to be able to keep up with what we're detecting, because it's too many anomalies.
But she points out that having a narrative is a beginning, but then you got to have the quantitative stuff. When I say, well, it landed on a slope. Okay, tell me the number of degrees of the slope. I want to know, the angle.
Yeah.
They don't tell you the numbers. They say, well, it landed on a slope.
Well, the older I get, the more I see that the information is being filtered in a way. Like there's a new paper that I follow Michael Levine's work on biomorphogenetic fields and anthrobots. He's trying to figure out how the mechanism of a cell actually forms into, structures of a living creature.
Oh.
And they just published a paper they've been working on for 3 years with his coworkers. And it's like the more that I see people in biology, like there's just too many disciplines that are separated.
Yeah.
And so they're not getting the information across platform, like
Right.
you're saying with the slope. And
Right.
to me, the biggest problem is people are just trying to get their thing published, get it reviewed by their peers, get it into the journals, and they get their next grant, they move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I like Sabine Hassan. I can never pronounce her last name. She's a very good presenter. And she's technical. I like the fact that she's technical enough that there's information there, not just, I mean, Michio Kaku is just so vague.
Well, he's a city college professor.
Is he?
Yeah, he studied physics when he was like a teenager. He's like a boy genius that was super smart as a kid.
Yeah.
And then he tries to keep up on his knowledge, but he's so broad because he's working with the public that he's not going too deep on anything, and he's just sort of glossing over.
He's so vague. He doesn't say anything. But they love him because when he talks, he's using complete sentences in English, and the public can hear what he says, and it's not wrong. It's just it's not even wrong. It just doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah, I've been going to this meeting every Friday for ontologists.
Yeah.
And it's so dry, and like no one except for this handful of people are interested in narrowing down the properties of speech and lexicons to be able to communicate in ways that it's in other words, human language is not proper for science. We need a new math. It's not.
In fact, it's well known that, I mean, there's a good reason that scientific models are expressed in the language of advanced mathematics. It's not even basic math. It's not even Newtonian calculus anymore. It's now tensors and I don't know what the names of these Ricci tensors. I mean, the mathematics that's used in general relativity is beyond anything that it was ever even mentioned when I was studying calculus. And when I was studying calculus, Newtonian calculus has space is a rigid three-dimensional grid, and time ticks at the same rate everywhere and every when. And that was great up until Einstein came along and says that doesn't model our space-time. Our space-time is warped, and time does not tick at the same rate. And Newton's simplification is okay up to a point, but when you do quantum mechanics and relativity and square holes, you can't use Newtonian's model of space-time.
Yeah, the spiritual view, if you've ever heard the word veiled, that there is a veil between other worlds of spiritual entities that exist, angels, whatever you want to call them. There's a whole nother layer of conscious agents that live outside of this reality and this construct. And the more that I read these spiritual texts and the more that I see science starting to peek under the veil, like trying to look further out in space, it's like, hey, stop looking, humans. You're not supposed to look that far away. Stay in your little world that we created for you.
Well, what's interesting to me is that now that we are in the age of learning machines that are learning autonomously in parallel with human learning, but differently, because they're looking at large amounts of data and they can get patterns that are, supplied by enormous amounts of data. What we're going to see is when you draw a learning curve, humans draw a learning curve kind of like that. You learn steeply and then it kind of tails off. And I say, well, that's a very nice first model, but people also learn things wrong. They get misconceptions. So real learning curve undulates. Because you have a theory which is wrong and you discover it's wrong. You got to discard it and replace it by something better. So you really want an undulating learning curve, which means you got to not only have the slope, but also the curvature.
Right, but what if you have conscious agents that as you're looking at the slope, they're moving the slope in real time to throw off your measurements?
Well,
that's what I think is going on.
Here's the thing. So human learning also has these undulating learning curves with misconceptions and discarding misconceptions and gaps and so on. And the language that humans use is the language of affective states. I was surprised, or I was confused, or I was bewildered. or I was confident, or I was, so you have all these terms which characterize the curvature of the slope in terms of affect or emotion, but they're not precise. If I say it's curving down, give me the numerical value of the second derivative. How sharply is it curving down? Is it just a little bit curvature or a lot? And so, the slope is a number, the curvature is a number. It's positive or negative. If it's curving down, you get sad. If it's curving up, you get happy. You get hopeful.
Yeah, well, that's a model, but I'm saying there's a lot more going on. Meaning, when you start studying, if you get a chance, really check out Michael Levine's work, this paper that he published. I'm going to read it. I haven't had a chance yet, but there's information coming from sources that are affecting the cellular makeup, meaning epigenetics, and we haven't calculated all the information that the cell is receiving.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is there's so much information we can't even detect it. It's, the perturbations of how many neutrinos are coming through. Think about it. There's too much information to know what is going on inside of those cells.
Have you come across a story about noradrenaline? See, everybody knows about adrenaline. If you're in a state of panic, if you sense danger, and your body starts producing adrenaline, so you have physical strength to handle a situation with requires. So everybody knows about. You go to a sporting event and you get adrenaline rushes with the plays. However, let's say that you're not just a politician, but say you're a governor or a president or prime minister, and you've got crises happening where your whole country's threatened. So you don't just have a transient threat, you have a perpetual or persistent threat. So you're under stress, persistent stress. So your body cannot be producing high levels of adrenaline consistently 24/7, week after week. Okay. And so what the body does is, if you're under a lot of persistent stress, your body taps the desire to, or the production of adrenaline, and there's an antagonist called noradrenaline. So noradrenaline basically says, neutralize the adrenaline because I don't want to be under stress all the time, because then I can't think straight. If I'm under a long-term challenge, I have to do thinking. It's not act fast, it's act strategically. So if I need to do strategic thinking instead of tactical thinking, then I don't want the adrenaline, because adrenaline is great for tactics, but bad for strategy. You're shaking your head.
I'm just trying to get my hair.
Okay. So here's the interesting thing. When your body is producing adrenaline, the cells that produce adrenaline are producing not just adrenaline, but a whole series of related substances that have the same basic constituency, except for a few.
I think Sam wants to interject. I think he's got something he wants to.
I'm actually trying to figure out how to conduct this conversation. I think the genesis of these conversations were to explore topics. And if we're riffing from topic to topic to topic with apparent lack of focus, then I'm trying to figure out, how do we stay on focus, or how do we engage, or how do we even invite people? I'm just trying to figure out what kind of conversation.
I'm just giving a concrete example of what Joshua discussed in an abstract. I'm giving a concrete example.
I can give you the flow of thought that led us here, but at this point, I think where we're at is parts of the body that interpret information.
Exactly. So the point is that when the body produces noradrenaline to tamp down the effect of adrenaline, because now you got to start thinking strategically and long term instead of tactically and short term. One of the things that is, when the body is producing adrenaline, it produces a number of related things at the same time, because it's a factory, it's producing stuff. One of the things that it produces is the dark pigment in your hair. And they noticed that politicians under stress turn gray pretty fast.
Yep.
And they also found that rats turn gray if they're under perpetual stress. And the question is, why do you visibly see them turning gray? And the answer is because what the noradrenaline is doing is it's aborting the production of adrenaline, but it's also aborting production of the dark pigment, melanin. And so what happens is you start turning gray because you're discontinuing the production of the dark pigment. And so if you look at, for example, Barack Obama, in 8 years, his hair turned gray. And the question was, why does the hair turn gray of a politician who's under perpetual stress for 8 years? And the answer is noradrenaline. And why?
Well,
why does noradrenaline turn your hair gray? Because it stops production of melanin, which is produced alongside of adrenaline by the same chemical processes of the cells.
So what you're talking about is why I am so fascinated by Chinese medicine, is because there's a whole host of factors in the body. It's easy to be a reductionist and say it's this and that, but then there's a process of methylation and a process of reading the code from the DNA to the RNA, and then a process of the interpretation of those cells of that information. So in other words, a person that is under that stress, that knows how to not just control their adrenaline, whether it's noradrenaline or, you know, epinephrine, or I don't know, all the different.
Epinephrine is the correct name of adrenaline.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is there's different types of chemicals, but then there's a process of your body taking in minerals to help produce those chemicals. Then there's a process of bacteria that's actually acting on those cells. Yada, yada, yada. Then there's a process of hormones, which are other type of chemicals. So if they got a certain amount of sun that day, that would change the methylation process, blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying there's so many of these processes in reductionist Western medicine, it's not accounting for how the functions of the liver were working at that moment in time. So in other words, what type of minerals were given to the liver to allow it to be reproduced? All, you know, the body system is not static, it's dynamic. And I think a lot of people like to reduce it to static, like, oh, let's just pump it full of oxytocin, or let's give it these chemicals that will change, you know, like the drug chemical, let's kill off all the bacteria and see what happens.
In fact, when the body stops producing adrenaline and stops producing melanin, it starts producing melatonin, which makes you want to sleep. And if you're trying to solve a problem, often you're better off, sleeping on it. And so melatonin says, I want to sleep. And in my sleep, I'll figure out some strategy.
So I was having great dreams when my alarm woke me up and said, go on the GCC call.
Yeah. By the way, it's interesting. When I lost blood from that bleeding episode back in October, they put me on iron supplements to help speed up the regeneration of hemoglobin. And I'm still taking the iron supplements beyond the body's need for them. And I noticed there is a dark precipitate at the bottom of the toilet bowl. I'm excreting this unused iron sulfate, whatever it is, iron sulfate, and I've got a precipitate at the bottom of my toilet bowl. I go, I should slow down the rate at which I'm taking in the iron. So instead of taking one every 2 days, I now take one every 3 days.
Yeah. Have you seen these new gel capsules that get released at different times in your gut too?
Well, there's always been time release, but I don't know about the new one.
Yeah. I don't know if it's gel, but whatever these time release different medications, in other words, how our bodies intake the minerals that they're giving us, like whether it's in liquid form or and that's why everyone's like, oh, just do it naturally through food. Well, hey, I'm not eating a plate of kale, thank you.
Well, that's the problem, is these iron sulfate tablets, they're pretty big. They're 325 milligrams, and you take one, and so it's one a day, typically, after breakfast. Whereas if you're ingesting that amount slowly, I probably wouldn't be producing all these precipitates in my urine. Yeah. But I really noticed, I said, what is this stuff that's collecting on the bottom of the toilet? This dark, precipitate, and it's because of the iron. And I'm gonna use up my prescription of iron tablets in, I guess, by the end of the month. And then I'll see if the precipitates disappear from the from the peeing. That's my prediction.
I feel like our bodies are so complex. It's like every engine that was ever built in the history of humankind is in our body,
including the rotating flagellate. You know, the static electric motor that they discovered in those creatures that they found that it's actually rotating. It's not wiggling this way. It's actually literally rotating. And that was an amazing surprise that we had a little electric motor in the flagellum.
And you know what's really amazing is everyone's new fad is freezing your body to cold temperatures to produce all these hormones, you know, like over amplify the system to see if it can handle it. Have you seen this new fad? People jumping in cold water.
There was a story about people who go swimming 4 seasons a year. They even go in the ocean in the middle of winter. And they talk about, you know, the shock of going in the cold. My problem is I get up and it's 58 degrees in the house. And if I take my blood pressure and I peel off 4 layers to get to bearskin to take my blood pressure, suddenly my blood pressure is 20 points higher than it would have been if I'm wearing four layers in a 658 degree temperature. And I had to figure out, you know, how not to get the wrong readings because it's so damn cold in the middle of winter.
Yeah, I got really acutely aware of this when my dad's his hypothalamus wasn't working properly, so he couldn't control his body temperature. And living with someone that can't control their body temper is so strange. Like a lot of people just take it for granted that our thermostat is working in our body. So when we have to go a little higher to burn out a virus or a fever, when that doesn't work, he was freaked out for a year. He still is. It's still really scary for him. Every day is I wonder if I'll be warm enough in 65-degree temperature. Like he literally can't heat his body up.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah,
it's a disease. He's got diagnosed.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you can see I've got an extra layer on here. I'm sitting in the kitchen, which normally the kitchen is actually the coldest room in the house. The bedroom is the warmest.
I overheat when I'm outside in the cold so that my limbs, like I heat my core, and then I can flow the blood to my limbs, my fingers and toes.
Yeah. So, yeah, but you're right that there's a whole lot of factors that the feedback loops that try to modulate and regulate. Sometimes they're all working in concert. Sometimes they're fighting each other. And you got one thing that's raising, one's lowering some parameter,
and we're evolving too. That's why epigenetics, I think, is so important. Is it's not static. Your DNA is the blueprint telling you how to do it, but you can manipulate that with environmental factors. It's
absolutely.
Yeah, like I just watched a geologist talking about biology, and he was going through this great. I have the presentation. I can send it to you if you're interested. But he was talking about modeling in a computer the way biologically a worm goes from sensing light on a part of their skin and then forming the oculus of the eye. So it starts off flat and slowly starts to sense more, and turns into the actual eyeballs on different creatures.
Well, if you think about it, if you form a depression, then you're going to get more information from overhead light, and light that's coming in from an angle is no longer hitting a surface. So the idea of forming a depression helps aim your direction of sensing.
Well, that's the slope we're talking about.
Right. Exactly. It's exactly the same thing that having a rounded receiver is already a benefit because it allows you to determine where the light's coming from and therefore aim at it.
Yeah, I'm saying like biologically, if you go back to the beginning of life on this planet and you've got the red algae and the green algae and how it's forming, when it broke off, some things turn into plants, some things turn into mammals, some things turn into reptiles, but the octopus turned into a whole nother thing. It's not, amazing.
It's an alien, right?
It's an alien to us because it's probably formed in some vent somewhere at the bottom of the ocean.
chlorophyll and hemoglobin are very similar. They
Mhm.
branch from the same thing. So you get chlorophyll in plants and hemoglobin in animals, and they all came from the same precursor.
Yeah. So like these programs, that's what I'm hoping, that we can do some really high-end modeling in 30 years from now to go back through. I forgot, there was a video game that they brought out in the 2008 or so, 2009, where you start off as a little cell thing bumping into things, and then you start to form arms, and it was a fun little video game. But I'm saying, imagine that with real amounts of data of all of biology built into the system, and letting it form the new octopus alien life. And
yeah, over 5 billion years of evolution.
In 24 hours on a giant, huge Cray computer. Yeah, I want to see this.
Yeah, but
because I really, I'm leaning more into this simulation theory, but it's not a simulation. It's more of a physics outside of what we can detect, which people are calling dark matter. There's some sort of information that we have yet to detect that's helping to move the atoms in this world that we're in. Like,
I mean, if you think about it, dark matter and dark energy only affect gravity. They don't affect electromagnetic photons. So you can't detect them with photons because they don't interact with photons. But they do help deform the space-time curvature, so you can detect them because of gravity, but not at the quantum level.
And what is going on in the vacuum of space in terms of electricity? Like, how does electricity work in space?
Well, it's because they're charged particles, because atoms.
No, but I'm saying at grander sizes than we could imagine, meaning the size of a galaxy.
Oh, yeah. I suppose that there are big electric circuits in the galactic rings.
They've shown them.
Maybe Sabina Hassenfelder has got a video on that I haven't seen yet about galactic size electric circuits.
There's a meme that's been going around for the last 10 years or so of, at the largest scale of the web of the universe is the same as the smallest scale.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen pictures that show that a neural network, a photo of a neural network looks like the photo of the galaxies in a certain scale.
Yeah, I saw Monty Python. One of the guys that created Monty Python had a whole speech about this. But if you blew up the universe to the size of maybe not even, like, think of 100,000ths of an angstrom, or not, whatever the smallest amount of you could be in a dendrite inside of a brain, that would be the entire bubble of our whole cosmos. And if you imagine, we're in the mind of a person, like, it's, in other words, it's Zeno's paradox. It just goes on forever. There is no end. And
yeah, the fractal structure of cosmology, the fractal structure of the brain, and the fractal structure of trees, and the fractal structure of the galaxies. Yeah, you see the same fractal structures repeat at different scales.
And shouldn't that be obvious that it's fractal, that it's holographic?
I don't know about obvious, but it's certainly people who have observed it have mentioned the fractal nature of this and that and the other thing.
Yeah, and Stephen Hawking was working on that as far as a holographic understanding of a black hole.
And
he
wants to know he wants to see if we can model what's inside of a black hole. The thing is that I don't know how you would test the theory, because how would you measure? How would you do a measurement to confirm the theory? I'm not sure how you do that. Can't get inside of a black hole and take a measurement and then get back out again.
Well, that's the whole thing. So here's a question. If there's black holes out there, are there black holes in here inside?
I don't think so, because that would give you a huge mass. It would
no, in our model, we think it would give you a huge mass, but what if it's actually flipping something? So it's happening at such a small scale in such a small amount of time that it actually is indetectable.
Gravity is not indetectable if it's. I mean, one of the problems is, what's the smallest amount of gravity that you can detect, perturbation in gravity that you can detect. And LIGO basically has demonstrated the smallest perturbation in gravity that you can detect. That's a quarter mile long arms,
Right.
Very delicately balanced mirrors on either end.
But that's from a large scale, like a gravity wave out in space.
Right.
But what if it's happening at such a small scale you can't detect it? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, what if there's a whole world inside of there?
This is one of the fundamental frontiers of quantum gravity, is how can you measure quantum gravity given the challenge of measuring cosmology gravity. And they keep thinking that somebody will come up with an ingenious way to measure quantum gravity. But right now, we don't have any good ideas of how to measure quantum gravity. You would need a device as big as the galaxy. If you try to scale LIGO to get quantum gravity, the arms of LIGO would be as long as the galaxy. So that's not the answer. That's going the wrong way. And maybe they'll figure out a way. They figured out a way to measure gravity with relatively small physical objects. There's that torsion gravity measuring device that, Cavendish, or I can't remember which guy figured it out. And they were able to measure gravity of small lead weights. It's pretty, thumb-sized lead weights. But getting down to quantum, the gravity of a single proton or neutron, don't know how they're
I guess, yeah, I like to do thought experiments, and I wonder if our modeling of reality, because we're using that little ocular cavity that was created over, a billion years
right
of evolution, what if the model of our reality is just one aspect, but it's not the correct aspect of, in other words, our view of reality is completely wrong, but it's right for us, but wrong
at our scale.
for, yeah,
we are in orders of magnitude midway between the largest and the smallest. If you go from
and our ability to perceive time is so minuscule compared to,
yeah,
like in other words, we would have to put a time-lapse camera up for about 6 billion years and then take a look.
What is somebody said 1,000,000 seconds is 11 days and 1,000,000,000 seconds is 31 years.
Exactly. Yeah, I just, on a side note, completely different but interesting, is the new language models, the new AI transformers are pasting in film that doesn't exist. So if you take a 30-second frame, it'll give you another 400 frames in between. So it's drawing animation of what it thinks would happen, so you can watch your video in slow motion.
Yeah, in between.
But it's not real. Yeah, it's not real.
Linear in betweening. Or quadratic.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think is happening here on a different scale. Is there's a lot of things, like, how your eye is not perceiving a certain point, but we're filling it in.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on, why we can't actually get consciousness and what's actually happening, because we're not actually perceiving it as it's really happening.
Well, there's a famous perception experiments where you fill in the missing lines. You draw a figure that's got missing sections of the line, and you see the line that's not there. You see the continuation of the line even across the gaps where there is no line.
Well, I think that's what we're seeing in energetic fields when we're measuring things. We're seeing things that we think are there. We all agree they're there, but they're not really there. Our brains have interpreted it.
Yeah, well, there's virtual particles too. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying just like two parallel lines that go straight forever, that's not really how the universe works. It curves.
The universe is not a Euclidean plane.
No, it's not.
The universe is not Euclidean, period.
Yeah, that's why, like, in order to really understand these things, I think we have to develop machines that don't think the way we think. And I think that's what we're doing with this AI technology.
Well, pattern thinking is not non-existent. There are people who are very good pattern thinkers, but it's still, your geeks and your nerds are pretty good at pattern thinking, but most people are not terribly good at pattern thinking.
But I don't think the universe thinks in patterns, is my point.
Well, I'm not sure what it means to ask how the universe thinks. The universe just does what it does. But
It
pattern,
does what it does. We perceive it the way we perceive it, but is that what's actually, is that bearing accurate witness to what's actually happening?
well, I mean, patterns are mathematical abstractions. So there are mathematical abstractions of patterns which are useful. So that you can extend a pattern and make a prediction that the same pattern will reappear beyond
Sure.
your scope of vision. And I mean, if you're driving on a highway and you can't see over the hill, you still assume that over the hill there's more highway.
Well, I saw Sam burst into the conversation saying we're hopping all over the place, but to me, we're on the same, at least when I'm talking to you, Barry, I don't feel that we're hopping all over the place. I feel like we're doing a trough, a down, and up, but the middle
We're
line,
doing meta and we're doing abstract and concrete. Abstract models, concrete
right?
examples. Abstract model. So we keep coming with concrete examples which fit the abstract or meta model. And it's useful to have a little of both. It's useful to have the abstract model, the mathematical abstraction, the pattern, and then it's useful to have multiple concrete examples of different
But
scales.
For me, I appreciate you following my wavelength of let's imagine. Now let's come back to the concrete.
Right.
Now let's imagine, let's come back to the concrete. And somewhere in between, there can be something that just bursts out of a thought bubble.
This is how you get to the ground truth is you jump between abstract classes and concrete instances of the classes. And as you go back and forth between the abstract class and the concrete examples, you might gain some insights. You might find other things that obey the same model. And that's so reasoning by analogy is finding an analogy that is shared across seemingly unrelated domains. That's very
Thank
powerful.
you. Yeah, that's the way I understood of Einstein's thought experiments. Of
Exactly.
I'm in a spaceship, I'm looking at a mirror. What does my reflection look like at the speed of light?
Right. So the notion that falling off the roof of a building and that was the most what do you call that? The one of his brightest ideas was to imagine what it would be like to be falling off the top of a building, and he'd be weightless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to imagine worlds that don't exist, then try to put some concrete understanding around it, but then let go of some of that to allow for the perturbation of possibilities.
Yeah.
And it drives some people crazy.
People who consider every case its own unique case and not a member of a larger pattern, what happens is they run out of brain space.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you go into somebody's house and you see a fireplace. You say, oh, that's your fireplace. Then you go into somebody else's house and they have a fireplace, but it doesn't look like the one in the first house. You think that's a completely different object. If everybody's fireplace is a completely different object from everybody else's, then there's no such thing as a generic fireplace.
Which is why I love ontology, for that exact reason.
At what point does it say, okay, your fireplace and that fireplace look alike, but they look different? What matters is how they're alike. How they're different is less relevant than how they're alike. And being able to classify things by features that are common and not differentiated by features. Or on the other hand, my nephew has twin daughters and they look almost identical. They're identical twins, except that they're not identical. And in his case, he has to tell them apart. Gabby is not Roxy and Roxy is not Gabby.
Yeah, they get pissed if you try to put them together. I have to apologize, Barry. I promised Qcella she has a presentation at 10 o'clock, which is in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're coming up at the top of the hour, and Sam Chan is not going to come back. And so I think we'll close out here at the end of the second hour here anyway. So
okay. And if you're still there, Sam, let me know what you would like to do with these conversations to allow others to. I'm keep meeting people that are really interested to come and join, but I do think we need to welcome them in a way that's pleasant for them to enjoy.
Yeah, I agree.
So let me know if you're open to that too, Barry. I talked to Doug Breitbart this last week, and he's doing things that are on a different wavelength, but still fascinating. I think we would could all help each other.
Yeah,
Good conversation.
I agree.
Thank you so much. Very.
Ciao. Take care. Be well. See you
Cheers.
tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, I hope so. Look
Okay.
forward to it.
Super.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, Sam, I'm not sure if you're paying attention or not, but it's the end of the second hour anyway. I am not a I'm not a co-host, so I cannot stop the recording. So I'm just going to hop off because I'm invited to somebody's house today for a birthday bash, so I got to be out here anyway in an hour. Okay, Sam, I'm going to leave, but I can't. And the note is, I'll leave you a note that we ended after 2 hours. So put that in there now. Get my mouse over here. Meeting ended at 10 a.m. EST. All right, and then I'll save that. And I'm going to